What's up, suckers? It's me. I am coming to you from a new digs. It looks like it's all over the place because it is, because we moved in before the renovation is complete. So we still have a few things going on. I also live with chickens and shit. So if you happen to see any of those through the window, that's why. They watch me poop. It's weird. I was going to come to you with a much higher def camera, but small things tend to do. The piece that I needed is missing. This little fucking wonky, tiny little cord about this big that Canon only gives you one of is gone. I don't know where it is. So instead, I'm using my webcam until I can get a new cord, because as much as I love Costa Rica, trying to get a new cord, you would have an easier time finding any interest that I have in hearing any more about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. So today, I wanted to go ahead and start talking a little bit about planning with ADHD, planning our weeks, planning our tasks, putting it in a way that is visually friendly to ADHD brains. And there are a few ways that we could do this. There are a few things that I suggest, and we're going to start today. We're not going to do all of them because we'd be here for a while, but we're going to start today with the one that I suggest probably most commonly. This is the one that I use myself. It's called task stacking. It might have a name elsewhere, but that's what I call it. Basically, what it involves is taking your tasks and building a foundation with the ones that you cannot negotiate on, and then eventually building on top of that with the tasks that you actually want to get done. So we're going to talk about that first, and then I'm actually going to show you an actual demonstration of how I do this, and I'm going to be using a planner system that I have made for people with ADHD. It is made in ClickUp, and you will be able to kind of see it in action, and if you like it, it'll be in the description for you. So let's get into talking about task stacking. And before I continue, because I'm getting better and better at remembering to say these things, if this video works for you, if my channel works for you, wherein we constantly talk about productivity from an ADHD-friendly standpoint and an energy-friendly standpoint and a mental health-friendly standpoint, please make sure that you like and subscribe. It helps me find awesome people. It helps awesome people find me. And apparently that is just how it's done. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about task stacking, which I also have realized is a really annoying thing to say over and over and over again. So I'm going to try really hard not to say it too much. So I always like to think of our tasks and the things that we have to do like Tetris blocks, which may be showing my age a little bit, but what am I going to do? The whole point is that people who are neurotypical are able to take the tasks that matter and automatically stack them in such a way that you are putting them in an order that makes sense. It could make sense in terms of priority or in terms of time management, energy management, but it makes sense. ADHDers tend to struggle with this because our productivity, the way that we understand productivity, is much, much more visual. And it has a lot to do with the fact that we are awful when it comes to object permanence. We forget shit a lot. So whereas a person who is neurotypical may be able to see this cloud of stuff and pick things out of the air and figure out what they mean in the scheme of things, ADHD brains tend to just see it all and not know where to start, and so we just start attacking shit randomly. This makes for days where we get stuff done that we didn't really want to get done, or we don't get things done that we really wanted to get done, or we wind up behind on deadlines and we wind up ahead on shit that didn't really matter. It's a mess. So the way that we need to address this is we need to organize those tasks that are floating above our heads into something that we can actually visually translate. And the way that I generally tend to suggest to do this, like I said, there are a few, but task stacking works the best for me. And it is a 3-step process. It is going to take me longer to explain to you than it takes to actually get done, especially once you get used to doing it. And what happens is you start at the beginning of every week and it goes like this. So you pull out your planner, your calendar, whatever the hell it is that you use, and you sit down and you look just at the week ahead. Do not look a month ahead, 2 months ahead, 3 months ahead, because if you go any further out than you actually need, the next thing you know, you're going to be planning like a trip for next year without getting the shit done that you actually need to get done. And you know this is true, because I do the same thing. So what you actually want to do is you want to take a look just at that week, and you want to start with step 1, which is make note of your non-negotiables. These can be classes that you have, or doctor's appointments, or family time, things that are going to be the same. They have to be at a certain time, on a certain date. There's no moving it around unless you're sick or unless it gets rescheduled by someone else. That's where you want to start. So you put those things down first. And you want to make sure that when you write this stuff down that you leave at least a 30-minute window between starting it and ending it. And the reason that you want to do this is because shit happens, you could run over, who knows. So you start with those non-negotiables. Next, you're going to start with the things that you want to get done that week. They could be projects that have movable deadlines, but you'd still like to get a certain part of the project done. It could be a new habit you want to start. It could be really anything that you feel should get done that week. And you are going to go ahead and input those. And you can input them to be done daily, or you can just go ahead and mention the deadline, depending on how you do with planning things out little step by little step. I personally suggest doing it little step by little step, but if seeing that frustrates you, just make sure that you indicate wherever the deadline is in your week. After you have done that, then you want to go ahead and you want to add the things that would be nice to have or nice to do, but if they don't get done, totally okay. Those things are easily movable, they're flexible. If they don't get done, you really don't give a shit. And input them all. Then you want to take a look at your week and make sure that it's reasonable. And by reasonable, sometimes people are like, well, it's reasonable for me to get like 18 things done on Wednesday if I just give myself time on Tuesday. That's not reasonable. You want to try to think in terms of not just what you usually are able to get done, but what you're going to do if you are sick or if things go sideways. So for example, I generally try to record my videos on Tuesday because it gives me a chance to edit the video and get everything together by Friday. But if I cannot do that, whenever I plan my week, I try to ensure that I am going to, no matter what, be able to record on a Thursday, like today, because moving is of the devil and I will never move again. I'm going to die in this house and I will never move again. And if I'm looking at this video a year from now and I see that I've moved again, I swear to God,
I will haunt the entire country of Costa Rica.
Anyway, so when you've done all that, then you are done. You're basically done. Your week is set. I do not suggest time stacking past a week unless there is something that you know you want to get done by the end of the month. And in that case, it does make your task stacking a little bit easier because you know roughly what day you have to get certain tasks done by. And so it does make it a little bit easier for you to put those deadlines week to week to week. But task stacking is surprisingly easy, and it's something that forces you to prioritize, which we suck at. And it forces you to think of large projects and large undertakings in steps. It is very simple. It only takes a few minutes at the beginning of every week, and it makes it so that you are able to kind of have things in a more sensible order. So that way you can attend to what actually needs to be attended to immediately rather than whatever feels most important at the time. This has saved my ass a few times. In fact, I'll give you a little example just recently. So this planning system, is coming out today, and today being the 31st. That's your yesterday, but you catch my point. It was coming out, and some things happened with my son's schooling that made it so that I didn't have time to record on the day that I wanted to record. And initially I was having a shit fit because it was like, I've got 18,000 things to do, and therefore I am never going to get this done. But when I sat down and I started looking at the task stacked week, I realized that a couple of the things that were in my brain as I have to do them now actually could wait. And so I was able to move those things and give myself a little bit more breathing room to get the things done that really needed to be done. And that is probably the biggest takeaway that you can get from this, no matter how you do it, whether you do it digitally, whether you do it on paper, whether you task stack, with Post-it notes. It's important for you to actually organize the things that you have to do, because seeing those things makes more room for you to actually have a life. Because then you start to realize that just because our lying ass ADHD brains are telling us that we have 9,000 things to do, it actually turns out that at any time we might have more like 2 or 3 or 4. And that's a lot more doable, and it's a lot less scary. So that being said, you have gotten to hear my rooster yelling at the top of his lungs, "Fuck you, Carlos." And I think now is time for me to show you how to task stack specifically. And I will go ahead and also give you a chance to see how this planning system works. Okay, let's do this. We are in the task planner that I have made for ClickUp. And just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of how it's set up right now, it is set up to have a task planner, a brain dump, and a project planner. The task planner is where all of your tasks go. This is their central hub, and everything is set up to automatically be pushed from the brain dump to the project planner. That way you are never having to worry about clicking all over the place to make sure that your important stuff is getting added to your to-do list for the day. I mean, you have to do it to kind of task stack. You have to task stack for your week and for your day, but otherwise you're not clicking all over the place. That's the important part. So basically what you do is you want to take a look at the week, right? So here I am at the calendar view. On the calendar view for this week, we're going to move forward a week. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my non-negotiables. We're going to start with our non-negotiables. So say, for example, that I know that at 9 a.m. I have a dance class. So I'm going to say, okay, yeah, got a dance class at 9, and it's going to go from 9 to 10. So we're making sure that that whole spot's there. And then say that I have roller derby at 8 p.m. on Friday. I would get my ass whooped at roller derby, but that's not the point. And roller derby is 2 hours. So we're going to say, okay, I'm going to be there from 8 to 10. And say that we have some personal reading time, like we have people leave us alone for 2 hours. So we're going to say personal reading time. And we're going to go ahead and put that so that we're going until 7. And so now you have all of your non-negotiables already in the calendar. You can also do this on the list view if you want, obviously, and it'll put, your starts and ends there for you. It's totally and completely up to you how you want to do it. I'm just doing it on the calendar because it's easier to visualize for other people that way. But you have that there, right? And I am real quick going to go ahead and set this so that it has our custom fields there. This will be important for what's coming up next. So, okay. So we have all of that there, right? And we have already decided what our non-negotiables are. Now we're going to figure out what our sort of negotiables are. But these are things that we would prefer to get done immediately if we can this week. So now we have an idea of what we cannot negotiate on and what we need to plan around. And now we can plan accordingly. So you can go according to times if you know exactly when you're going to be getting this stuff done. If you don't, it's totally and completely okay for you to just indicate at the top here, you just say create task and you can add it on the day that you want to get it done. So, if, say for example, you're going to be doing house painting, you can always say, okay, I'm going to do house painting on this day. And then on Friday, I'm going to finish my latest book. And then, maybe on Monday, I plan on checking my social media insights. And you just go through and figure out what days you want to get these things all done. And of course, you can always switch back to the list. This is the view that you have to have for anything on ClickUp. And you can just go ahead and indicate when you'd like to start. If you so choose, you can indicate how much time, energy it's going to take you, how much priority it holds, all that. So say that you're in the middle of a project or you've been thinking of a project, right? And you really would like to make sure that you are including parts of that project in your planning. So this is how the project planner works. We have a test project here, and say that I am like, okay, it's officially time. I officially want to start this project. I filled everything in here, say, and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get started on subtask 1. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over here to move to. You're going to say, all right, move it to this week. And it's not going to leave. It's just going to be duplicated. That way you can keep track of your project progress and click off as you go. But if you move to your this week portion, you will see that subtask 1 here has been duplicated. And if you've already filled in start dates and due dates, it will already be on your calendar. That's just how this works. If you don't want to use this particular planner, that's cool. Just keep in mind, that wherever it is that you are keeping note of your current projects, that you are going to want to take a good look pretty often at what subtasks you have to do. You're going to want to have broken it down into subtasks, and you're going to want to figure out, when those things are due versus when you should start, and make sure that you include it when you are task stacking. So also, just to go ahead and give you guys an idea of how this brain dump works since we're here. So if you have plenty of time all of a sudden and you're like, you know what, I think I want to go ahead and look at what I've put into my large projects, my creative ideas, my small tasks. I've mentioned before that brain dumps are very, very important for ADHD brains, because otherwise we just go chasing after the latest thing. And we really need to be asking ourselves a few questions. The most important being, is this in line with my current goals, right? So for all of the brain dump areas, you're going to have the same option to move to, but you are going to have the added choice of deciding whether or not you want to move forward. And if you don't, you're just going to put it on hold and it'll stay there for you until you're ready. With your large projects, say that you've decided that you want to launch your new website, but you hadn't decided when. You had just kind of thrown it down while you were walking about, and now you're going to look at it and see if you have the time to do it. You've decided that it's a work project. It is relevant to your goals. You estimate that you are a freaking superhero and that you are going to get this done in 2 hours. And lucky you, you have 4 hours available. And so, it's not going to take you a lot of time because it's only going to take you 2 hours. And so you've decided to move forward. Well, you're just going to say that you're going to move forward with this. You say yes. And then this here in your large projects area is going to push this task out, and it's going to put it into your current projects area, which brings us right back to being able to task stack according to what subtasks you have available, because you would just want to cut this down into subtasks that you need. So, writing the copy, choosing a theme, purchasing your domain, I don't know, writing a newsletter. And then, you choose your due dates, and when it comes time for you to task stack, you'd be able to say, okay, it's time for me to purchase that domain to this week sometime, so I'm going to move this to this week. And as I said before, it duplicates. You'll be able to move over to this week, and you'll see on your list that now that subtask will be kicked here. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, so we're just going to go ahead and refresh, and there it is. And so you have it for your week. Now, you've task stacked for the week. Monday comes. It is now time for you to decide what it is that you're going to be doing that day. You can go ahead and do this a couple ways. If you have the calendar view, if you choose to put your calendar view for your today, obviously you can just go ahead and, kick it to the today calendar and then move it around, which is so incredibly freaking helpful. You would just go ahead and, move things around, click and drag it to the time that you want. But if you prefer to just use the list version, it's very, very easy. You're just going to go ahead and look and say, what do I have for my Monday due date? I have that I'm going to check my media insights. So you're going to go over here, you're going to say move to, and you're going to say that is getting done today. And if you have any of your non-negotiables that are up here somewhere, you would do the exact same thing, just move them to your today list. And then you'll go into your today list, and now that your non-negotiables are in, you can start adding things that are a little bit more negotiable. Like, maybe you'll wash dishes if you have the energy. Maybe, I don't know, you're going to go outside and argue with the squirrels. You have like a number of things that you can go ahead and do. You add them all. You're going to indicate what kind of task type they are. You're going to choose the related task. I tend to suggest this for things called task batching, which is basically deciding what you can do at the exact same time. That way you're getting things done simultaneously. Like, if your sink for washing dishes is right outside the window, maybe you're going to go ahead and you're going to wash dishes and argue with the squirrels at the exact same time. So you can indicate that they are related, and that way when you click one off, you'll have this to remind you that it's time for you to click the other one off. And you'll have your time estimate, your time tracked. You'll be able to think of how much time and energy these things will take. This is very, very important for deciding what's going to get done first versus what can wait till tomorrow. And same with your priorities, things like that. You can obviously move everything back if you realize that you're not going to get it done this week, or if it's just going to have to get done sometime this month. And this is very, very, very important. A status that I have for everything on this list, if you look at your board, you can see it the easiest. It says right here, due tomorrow. That is because none of these tasks have to be done today. Maybe you've told yourself that they have to be done today, and that's totally and completely cool. Like, you've got your deadlines and things like that. But please, please, please try to remember that the point of being productive isn't getting everything done. It's making sure that you get done what you set out to get done, and that's what this is for. So, if it comes to the point where you realize you're just not going to have time to argue with squirrels today, set it for tomorrow. Come back when it's time for you to task stack again, when you're moving things from the week to the day, and you have a chance to go ahead and look at your day again. Maybe you say, all right, I think I'm going to argue with squirrels today, and I'll make it a priority. I will change its priority in the list to urgent, and I am going to make sure that I get that done. But don't feel like you have to get everything done. That is extremely, extremely important for you to remember. And also just keep in mind that if you decide to use this, that it's highly customizable. So if you don't want to use half of the things that are in here, you can very easily just hide columns. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that this helped. If you have any more questions, of course, you can ask them in the comments, and in the description of the video, you can get your very own version of this template, plus a few printables that I've made for you and some instructional videos on how to get started. And I hope that this was helpful for you. You guys drink some water, Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.